Jehovah's Witnesses walking away from your door. Doesn't seem like they could be violent, but they can.
They can have some fun once in a while. Most situations don't call for violence, but sometimes we get to beat some ass and serve God at the same time.
I remember one assembly when I was 8 years old. A man tried to run up to the stage, and he was a preacher who had a public access show. He looked like he was like a guy that had a beard, and he was kind of a lumberjack looking guy, but he was a TV preacher. And he tried to go up on stage during one of the talks to, I guess he was going to grab the microphone and say something. He had like a paper that he was going to read. I guess he didn't like the Watchtower religion. Who knows why? And they have brothers that sit close to the steps that go up to the stage on either side. And of course, man, walking down the aisle, he didn't get anywhere near the stage when half a dozen brothers grabbed him. And I remember I was a little boy. I was not sitting far away from the action. And one of them put him in a chokehold. The others just like grabbed him, and they all just horsed him through one of the doors. And things went back to normal. The talk resumed. But I did wonder, what happened to that guy? What did they do? Oh, young people ask. And when I got older, I found out what does happen when somebody tries to rush the stage. Because I was an attendant at a district convention about 6 years ago. And there was an incident that took place. I was actually in we were at a Coliseum, and I was working the corridor. And one of the head attendants came running down the hall and said for us to follow him. And we were walking briskly into the auditorium. And he said, "We have a troublemaker. We're going to walk him out. No, don't lay a hand on him. We're going to surround him and walk him out." And it was in the sign language section, believe it or not. This was like a deaf guy. I don't know. He looked he looked kind of like Ralph Malph from Happy Days. You kids are too young to know Happy Days. He had like curly red hair, and he was some guy with freckles, or he was a ginger. Fuck, I hate them. And he was even wearing a hat like Ralph Malph wore. He was wearing one of those like golf type hats. I don't know what the fuck they are. Something that Jason Mraz would wear, some idiot like that. And was wearing those hats, and I guess during the program, whatever was getting signed to him, maybe it was a mistranslation. Maybe the stupid woman at the front of the section there who was sign languaging to the deaf people, maybe she mistranslated what the brother was saying, or I wasn't paying attention to the talk. I was in the corridor. I don't know what was, I can't even remember what the talk was about to tell you. But whatever it was made him so mad that he started pounding his fist on the chair. There was an empty chair next to him. He started hitting his fist on the chair like he was pounding it. It was, I know, it sounds like something, I don't know, someone from Russia would do. It sounds like something from Russia. And this guy, he had big hearing aids on his ears. But whatever it was, something lit him up like a Roman candle, because he pounded his fist on the chair. When I got there, he was already at the bottom of the steps, and he was, it was quite a scene. There was, you could hear people like you could hear, the crowd going, "Oh my God," because he had his lunch. He had his lunch pail. Who was this guy? Who the fuck was this guy? He came to the convention for summer. Was he a brother? I don't know. He was, I don't know who he was, but he apparently had come to the convention for the day, apparently to listen, because he had his lunch pail. And guess what? His little lunch box, it was like one of those, little mock coolers with a zipper on. Why am I describing this to you? Yeah. It was on a shoulder strap, and he was swinging it around. And there was about 6 brothers already on the scene that were surrounding him, and there was a few more of us that were running over. And the head attendant was saying, "We're going to walk him out." And so we just did a perimeter around him, and we kind of closed in. And the head attendant was directing us. Mind you, the talk is going on during all of this. The brother on stage is still speaking. Classic Jehovah's Witnesses, never miss a beat. But of course, everyone in the crowd was watching this, and we just formed a circle around him. And it took quite a while. It took because he was swinging his bag around trying to, something from like a Western movie or something, this guy, and he was red in the face. He was mad. But we just closed in around him, and we walked him. We were on the ground level because he had walked down, and this was in a coliseum where there was a service entrance where they can actually drive trucks and whatever through. And we walked him all the way over to that service exit. And here's the funny part, friends. When they finally got him to the exit, it's like a garage door where you walk out. The brothers did grab him at that point. They weren't going to grab him in front of all those people, but they grabbed him at that point. And I don't want to say that they gave him a beat down, but they roughed him up. And not me. I was standing on the inside of the garage door, but there was 3 guys that grabbed him. It was Dustin and Dylan and Benito. And they kind of beat him up. And I had been told not to. They said don't lay a hand on him, but so I can't really say that that's the procedural what's supposed to happen. But the head attendant was standing right there. There were elders standing there. There was a large group of brothers at the service entrance at that point. And so I'm talking about there's about 30 brothers standing there watching that. I don't know if you could call it sanctioned, but they stood there and watched Benny and Dylan and Dustin basically beat this guy up. It wasn't like a brutal beating, but and the guy was he had to get removed. He was a problem. Who are you arguing with? I was one of the people that walked him out. He was swinging his arms around. He was a little guy. He wasn't big enough to fight anybody, but he was swinging. They were twisting one of his arms behind him, and he was swinging his other arm, trying to grab onto somebody or something like that. And Benny was the one who inflicted the main beating on him. I guess you could go. He just kicked him. He just kicked him again and again, and not like it wasn't like bloody, but he kicked him. He was kicking him in the shin. Then he started doing almost like a Lorenzo Lamas kick where he was like kicking the guy in the side. And then Dylan, the guy still had a hold of his lunch pack. And Dylan grabbed that and like twisted it around his arm. And then he swung him around and threw him on the ground. So he didn't really beat on the guy that much, just threw him to the ground. I don't know. Weren't the Nephilim called fellers of men? They made other people fall. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, I'm just kidding. Calm down. We're just talking out loud. I'm just telling some stories here. Don't get carried away. And when he threw him on the ground, Benny, kicked him about 5 or 6 times, and not hard kicks. He just kicked him in the side, and then he did like kind of kick him in the head once, but the guy was putting his arms up so that he wasn't really getting hurt that much. But the guy was okay. The guy was okay. Don't cry for me, Argentina. And then everybody walked away, and life went on. But it's I think I've thought about it from time to time that there was almost a surrealism about him, because you see Jehovah's Witnesses in their suits and everything. You think a lot of things about them, but you don't really think of them being capable of violence. But it doesn't really take much to get a Jehovah's Witness violent. They can. I think Benny might have exceeded the threshold there a little bit. He may have gone overboard on that one. I don't know. Again, if someone is disrupting a meeting, I get it. They gotta go. But if you really are as peaceable as doves, I don't know. Maybe you should just call the police? I mean, of course, if somebody comes in and they're wanting to get violent, like there have been times when, somebody's ex-husband has walked into the Kingdom Hall and he's going to grab a woman and take her. Of course, you have to. The brothers got to grab that man. They got to stop him. But sometimes you got to wonder, wouldn't it be better to call the police? Please be there in 5-10 minutes. Just a suggestion. I don't know. I have concerns because I worry that someday someone will get hurt. If you've gone to a Kingdom Hall for years, you have seen. If you're only lightly associated with Jehovah's Witnesses, maybe you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you've gone to a Kingdom Hall for years, you've seen someone get thrown out of there. You've seen someone at the meeting. Someone will step out of line in some way. Some stranger will come in and want to protest or something like that. And the brothers will grab him. They will physically grab the guy, drag him out of there. And I have worried, wondered. To be honest with you, when Laura went to the meeting the other week with her baby and everything, I was a little bit apprehensive. I was, because I have seen people physically grabbed and thrown out very unceremoniously of the Kingdom Hall. It's hard to think of people going, the same people that go, knock on your doors and they're smiling and they're sweet, but they do get physical up on this to the stage. And he was a preacher who had a public access show. He looked like he was like a guy that had a beard, and he was kind of a lumberjack looking guy, but he was a TV preacher. And he tried to go up on stage during one of the talks to, I guess he was going to grab the microphone and say something. He had like a paper that he was going to. I remember I was a little boy. I was not sitting far away from the action. And one of them put him in a chokehold. The others just like grabbed him, and they all just horsed him through one of the doors. And things went back to normal. The talk resumed. But I did wonder, what happened to that guy? What did they do? Oh, young people ask. And when I got older, I found out. I guess he didn't like the Watchtower religion. Who knows why? And they have brothers that sit close to the steps that go up to the stage on either side. And, of course, man, walking down the aisle, he didn't get anywhere near the stage when half a dozen brothers grabbed him. And Jehovah's Witnesses walking away from your door. Doesn't seem like they could be violent, but they can.
They can have some fun once in a while. Most situations don't call for violence, but sometimes we get to beat some ass and serve God at the same time.
I remember one assembly when I was 8 years old. A man tried to run on... What does happen when somebody tries to rush the stage? Because I was an attendant at a district convention about 6 years ago. And there was an incident that took place. I was actually in the... we were at a Coliseum and I was working the corridor. And one of the head attendants came